Okay, צהריים טובים. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming and being here. We're thrilled and happy to have you all, and for this incredible, meaningful, and amazing panel that we will have soon. My name is Idit Lotringer. I'm the Regional Director of Central Florida, and here with me I have Esti Levita Zulay. She is the Consul of South Florida, and she's going to introduce the panel. Just one thing to tell you before we start. We are the future of Zionism, and if you did not register yet, please do so. We need you to register and vote IAC 2025 to the World Zionist Congress. We want to be part of that. We want to influence. We want to make it possible. And we just need for you to scan the barcode and to register, please. Yes?
And pay $5.
$5.
I did it.
Good, thank you. Appreciate that very much. So we're going to start. Thank you again for coming. Esti.
Yeah, thank you for whoever already registered the IEC with the ההסתדרות הציונית העולמית. As she mentioned, I'm the co-chair for the South Florida IAC. In our reality and out of the atrophy of October 7, the ability to adapt, thrive, and lead is more important than ever. As we navigate the complexity in our communities with our identity as Israeli, Jewish, Israeli-Jewish, Israeli-Arab, Israeli-American Jewish, so many identity, and our supporter, whether social, economic, or environmental, it's essential to understand what makes a certain individual in groups and not only survive, but flourish in the face of the adversity. I am privileged and honored to introduce you to an exceptional panel. First, Dr. Miriam Adelson, physician. Yes. Businesswoman and philanthropist, Dr. Adelson has dedicated her career to advancing medical research and improving healthcare, while also making significant contribution to communities' development and support for those in need. Thank you. Dr. Adelson, joined by Eli Beer, the visionary founder of the United Hatzala, an innovative volunteer ambulance service in Israel. Eli, unbreaking work in emergency, especially during and after October 7, has not only saved countless lives, but has also exemplified the power of community. Thank you. Lastly, we welcome Noah Peri-Jensch, the IC Chief Community Officer. Noah is a dynamic leader and advocate for social change. Noah has been instrumental in developing programs and connections at the IEC that promote resilience within communities through education and empowerment. Welcome, and thank you all.
Thank you, Esti. I didn't realize that that's what they wrote. Thank you very much for whomever wrote that. That was really nice. ברוכים הבאים. We scheduled this session to be delivered in Hebrew for those who just needed a little bit of Hebrew. But we are a community, an inclusive community, and we welcome in open arms anyone who their Hebrew is just beginner. And we will also advise to sign up to our OFEC program to learn online Hebrew. So next session, you will be fluent. But we will hold it in English and here and there, maybe a little bit Hebrew when we have to. So, ברוכים הבאים, my dearest panelists, Shabbat Shalom. This is a kind of a hybrid Shomer Shabbat panel. Eli will not speak in a microphone, okay? So please be really quiet, so his voice. What? Oh, Yoav wasn't introduced. Maybe they read the description for me while it was supposed to be for you. Because you... Well, then that's the biggest surprise for you. You're gonna hear and learn about it very soon. Tzaddik Nistar. Not anymore though. Lamed Vav Tzaddikim. This is Yoel Zilberman. Zilberman. יואל. אמרתי יואל. יואל, הנה מרים פרץ הגיעה אלינו, וואו, איזה כבוד, כבוד למרים פרץ. יואל he is the founder of a really interesting organization that I've became to know just a few years ago called Hashomer Hachadash, the new keepers. And so maybe we will start with you, I think. So this session is about chosen, chasinut, resiliency. And in Hebrew, there are two words with the same verb. So chosen and chasinut. What's the difference? I don't want to ask, but does anybody of you kind of know how to explain the difference between chosen and chasinut?
Chasinut is like immunity from disease, or that you got vaccine and or you have this character that you are immunized again, and your ego is okay if somebody is insulting you. You have chasinut because you are fine with yourself. Chosen is more general, is otzma, is strength, and it's not against something. It's more general and more public. People are talking about chosen, how to be strong for many, many areas, not just against anti-Semitism, not against, but to be strong, to have a character that you have the strength. But chasinut is more, it's taken more if you compare it to vaccines that you got and you are mechusan from it. So that's the difference.
So this is
we need in Israel chosen. Chasinut, we got vaccine from God.
Yes.
Now chosen.
Okay, so this is physician answer. And by the way, if we have AV tech here, please help us with the sounds when we need to uplift the mics, okay? And our facilitators here, please help us with that. You know, in the IAC, the way we look at chosen and chasinut is chosen, it's internal. It's like your immunity, it's your mental strength internally. And chasinut is the external, it's the community. You can, and that's the combination. It's great that you are chason inside, but if you don't have that with your community, you won't stay strong for a longer time. And that's, I think, is what we are talking about here. But Yoel, tell us a little bit, you're a new face here for some people. Tell us a little bit, what is that you do, and how is that relating to community building and resiliency, chasinut?
So Shabbat Shalom. Sorry that I lost my voice a bit. I'll say a few things. First, the best compliment I can get is that I grew up as a shepherd, and I hope to be shepherd again. This is the best. And when you speak about chosen, you get all of that when you are outside in the fields. You can learn everything there. I'll say shortly that I had the privilege on the 7th of October to establish a new division in Israel. It was the only new division that was established. The name is Har Zion, 0710, on the name of the 7th of October. And I'm starting with that because in a very short time, right on the 7th of October, I had in a few days more than 1,500 new soldiers with more than 1,200 jeeps that mobilize warriors. Shiloh is one of the head of the divisions that we was working back to back all over the time. And I give that as an example because when you speak about chosen, I think we should speak about war jewelry and about the strength of our nation. I sent to Miri yesterday before Shabbat a beautiful lecture of Yigal Alon that he asked who is the most important partner for the Jewish state? And we can ask, you, the audience, who you think? He says, who is the most important natural partner for the Jewish state? So people say the United States, etc. And he said no. He said the world Jewry, the Jews outside of Israel. And I think that since the moment of the 7th of October, we started to see the phase of Am Israel. So we fight with each other all the time. But I had the privilege also to see 300,000 volunteers that came to our organization in less than a year, including Miriam, that pick up oranges in Kibbutz Yad Mordechai.
Repeat the number again.
Grapefruit, sorry, right.
And I was bleeding. It's different.
But he was happy on the end.
Very happy. It was one of the happiest in Yad Mordechai next to Gaza. No, I don't want to take his time
That's okay.
away.
So we created the organization that we understood that need to look 75 years forward, to understand that we need to reconnect the young generation back to our land. We saw that there is a small amount of people that are taking care to our food security of Israel, that without them we will not have what to eat, literally. We have one port that is already bankrupt in Eilat, and only 2 that works right now, and with missiles in Haifa, we'll maybe have 1. So we have what to eat for 3 months forward. So we start to build a movement of young people from the age of 4th grade to the age of 90 that are volunteering in the organization, with educational programs from a youth movement to 6 high schools, boarding schools, to a gap year, to volunteer system, and after that investment companies. And all the idea, it's from 0 to 100 to make sure that we are accomplishing the idea of Zionism and keeping the borders of Israel and making sure that it's cultivated and it will be more and more strong than ever for the years forward. And we can speak about the vision, but we see the opportunity of the war now. I'm looking over the last 100 years, since 1903, the Kishinev pogroms, since the First World War, the Second World War. I think it's a very also sad time, but it's also one of the best opportunities for our nation to ask ourselves what we are going to do together 100 years forward. Because I think that there was a dream for all of us that we will have the Jewish state. And I think since then we started to argue in between us, okay? Politics, that took over our life. And we got this very hard, let's say, I don't know which word to use. Yes, we just in the circle of my organization, we lost more than 45 friends, only around us. So it's something that you almost cannot explain or get in your mind. And I think that from now forward, the question will be, when you come in after a mission, I was almost not coming here. Just because of Yasmin, I came. Wednesday afternoon, I was released from the army after what happened on Tuesday. And when you're coming back from a mission in the army, you ask yourself only one question. What I did or I didn't did. What I did or I didn't did. This is the only question. So I think the ask from right now is to ask what will make us a lot more strong and a lot more safe 75 years forward. And always there was a small group of people. I'm sure you heard about Gania. You know Gania? It's a very small kibbutz. It's the first kibbutz in Israel. It was established by 2 women and 9 men. And after that, it's bring an idea that changed the face of the world Jewry, actually. Because they started to build all the infrastructures that build the state of Israel. So I think that we are in a phase to build our future. It's in our hands, mamash. And I can say, I give speeches all the time. I met, I think, during the war, more than 8,000 people. This is the amount of people they numbered that I met. And I can tell that for the last 15 years since I started, people told me all the time how much the young generation care only about himself. It's the Z generation. They're doing drugs. They're doing, only screams, nothing else. And if there will be a war in Israel, they will run away. And I think we met the promised generation. The promised generation that for many years was asking for a big mission and asking to be part of something that can really change the future and the world of world jewelry and the world itself. And I think we got the opportunity right now. So we should build the infrastructure, all of us together, to give him the opportunity to get in and just make it happen. But we have it's way to us right here.
Thank you. תודה רבה, יואל. I heard somebody saying yesterday about the Z generation, that it really stands for the Zionist generation now. And that's a new change. And also, I really appreciated when you were talking about the world jewelry. We talked about Chassidut from the outside, how it helps the inside. So, thank you.
We don't need to wait to build some, partnership. I don't know with who, with whom in the world. It's us.
It's us. It's the people right here in the room. Toda, Yoel. I'd like to move my next question to the man who really doesn't need a lot of introduction, because I doubt if anyone here does not know who is Eli Bir from United Hatzala. And and I really wanted Eli to be in this panel because the world, we need so many people. It's such a big mission, and we are about building communities. And communities are built on people who step up to the plate and do it voluntarily and with full passion and energy. And Eli, you've built an organization that is solely built on volunteers who are sometimes risking their lives for others, for the strength of the community, for the Chassidut. And I'd like to ask you, how did you start that? What was your motivation, and what was also your first step in building that kind of community? And please just keep quiet so we can all hear Eli.
Shabbat Shalom to all of you. So I think the main reason we're all here is because we believe we as community need to make sure our community is safe for many reasons. Our community has the right resources to feed the community and to protect the community. And I saw this when I was a young boy. I was only 15 years old. I went to volunteer in Jerusalem in an ambulance, and I realized that my community, where I lived in Beit Vagan, right next to Yad Vashem, right across the street from Yad Vashem, when we would wait for an ambulance, an average response time was 17 minutes. And a little boy, 7 years old, was having lunch, and that little boy choked. They called for an ambulance. I was that day a volunteer in that ambulance, and I arrived 21 minutes after to my same community, Beit Vagan, to this little boy when he was laying on the floor and his mother was above him trying to save his life. She didn't know what she was doing. All she needed to do was the Heimlich maneuver, but she didn't know what a Heimlich is. And she saw her son completely dying in front of her eyes. We tried saving him, but unfortunately it was too late when we arrived. And that's when I realized something has to be changed. We as a community could create volunteer organizations that will respond to emergencies, not to replace the ambulance system or the hospitals, but to add another layer of protection. And this is what we're talking about. Even now, October 7th, we see the importance of putting more layers of protection everywhere, for food, for security, for education, for many things. Volunteers could do 10 times more than people who get paid. 10 times more a volunteer, and you can see this in your organization, how many people volunteer and give and do, and you go crazy. Why are you doing so much? And they want to do more and more and more and more. I started with 15 volunteers. I was only 16 years old when I actually started Hatzala in Israel. I had 2 walkie-talkies that I bought in Radio Shack, Zichronam Libracha. And I smuggled it into Israel. I had to smuggle it in because the meches, and I started a command control to listen into the ambulances when they were dispatching calls. And I used to see motorcycles deliver pizza. And these motorcycles used to pass us when we were stuck in ambulance in traffic. And I always said to my friends, how is it that the pizza delivery guy will come with the pizza while the pizza is still hot? And us, as an ambulance team, we will get there when the patient is cold. And I said, something has to be changed. I told my friend as a joke, if I ever choke, call for a pizza. These guys will get there before me. And that's where the idea was, to start a motorcycle brigade and call it an ambucycle. We started with 15 volunteers, and now we're getting close. Be'ezrat Hashem, end of this year, we're going to have 8,000 active volunteers. And I just want to tell you, we operate throughout Israel with 3 different ways. We have volunteers. We use the volunteers' cars or bicycles, but we also have these ambucycles. You see them all over. You probably see them with the Adelson name on it. And many of you had names on them. And I could just say that another device that we use to get our volunteers notified, we use very famous technology called beepers.
Thank you, Eli, and thank you for everything you do.
That was Dr. Adelson's joke, but it's true, actually. But we buy the beepers from another source.
Don't change them.
Yeah.
No, we're staying with the same.
Stay safe. All right, so I'm going to move on to you, Dr. Adelson, because about 10 or maybe even 12 years ago, there was an evening where you and Sheldon, Zichrono Livracha, you flew to Los Angeles. You got an invitation to go to some kind of gala, and something happened in that evening that literally changed all of our life, certainly mine. And I want you, if you can share it with the rest of our friends here, what happened and how this vision emerged about creating that platform that the Israeli-American Council, the IC, is today.
Okay.
Hold it close.
Dr. Pokroy, who is in our board in Las Vegas, who is a good friend of ours, kept telling us every year, you have to come with me, you have to come with me to Los Angeles, there is an event, you cannot miss it. So finally, Sheldon and Dr. Pokroy and me flew to Los Angeles to see the event. And it was the kind of IC, but just for Los Angeles. I think it was called different name.
Israeli-American Club, I think it was, ILC or something, or Leadership Club.
Council.
ILC, Israel Leadership Council.
Yeah. And there were like 1,000 people, and all the Israelis were cheering up. The energy was amazing, and we were sitting there, not just the energy, the electricity. It's like everybody singing all the time, Am Yisrael Chai. So happy to be with each other, so happy to talk about Israel, so happy about their Judaism or about their being Israeli American. And in the middle, Sheldon is looking at me, and he's telling me, do you think what I think? It happens to us many times. I say, yes, I do. We are going to open branches, satellite of this organization all over America. And it was just when we saw how the Israelis are so connected with each other, how much they are happy to be with each other, and how much they are volunteering to help Israel. And Shoham, who was the chief executive at that time, we told him, go and open as many branches as you can. I think within a year or 2 years, we had like 12 branches. New York, New Jersey,
Boston,
California,
Florida.
Boston. Las Vegas was the first.
It's this debate with the Bostonians, but we'll keep it for another time.
I appointed myself to be the chairwoman of the Las Vegas IAC. I invited Dr. Pokroy, and all the people, the activists in Las Vegas, to be my board member. They had to pay $5,000 to show their commitment. And here we are at my home having our first board meeting. So I told them, okay, since I appointed myself, I'm going to be 1 year, and you, Yochi, are going to be my deputy, and next year you are going to be the chairman. And that's what happened. So now I am chairman emeritus, but we started, and we have a very, very strong branch in Las Vegas. It's amazing. It's much more than Sheldon and me expected, and not just in Las Vegas. You see the electricity here all over America, and people from Canada came to me, people from Chile, somebody from Chile came to me. How can we arrange it in our state? So we can spread, Noah, we'll see, and I think we are a big force to protect Israel. It's like, oh, here is this guy, Shoham. You see the guy on the corner? This is a guy within a year. How many branches? I say 12. How many branches we had within a year when we started? You don't remember? I cannot hear. But I say 12. Don't deny it. But you see now, we are all over, and we not just centers, we have satellites that the center is in connection with them. We are trying to be all over America. This is a very important organization, much more than Sheldon and me expected, because we are big force. You see now how all of us are fighting against anti-Semitism, how all of us should continue to go with kippah, how all of us should continue to walk with Magen David. We should continue to be proud of ourselves because we are not alone. And Sheldon had a poster in his office, and the poster said, stand up for what you believe in, even if you stand up alone. You may have heard it. I was so impressed, and this was the motto in our life, because we were so much attacked because we are Republican, because we support Israel, etc. And we were standing alone, but now I feel that we are standing with all of you, with all these people, that you are a big force. You are a big force to protect Israel, to protect the Jewish people. It's exactly like on the opposite side, birthright. My two boys have been with me many times in Israel since they were babies, and always I hired a tour guide that was taking the birthright. So they had the same thing like birthright. They went to Metzada, they went to a tent in the desert, things like this. But still, they were in college, they went to birthright. So I asked my Adam, my oldest, Adam, how was it? Because I always hear from kids, it changed my life. So Adam said, yes, Mommy, it changed my life. I say, I want to know where and when. So apparently he was with all his group for USC from his university, and they were in Hatzala, standing next to a grave of a young soldier, 20 years old, their age, and his friend was telling the story of this young soldier. They were all hugging each other and started to cry. He said, that was the moment that I understand that these soldiers in Israel are not just protecting Israel, they are protecting us, the Jews all over the world. And we, the Jews all over the world, owe them to be the soldiers outside in Israel and protect the Jewish people.
Thank you. I have to say, my daughter also attended Birthright this summer, and she had a very similar experience. And I think what I appreciate about the IAC in particularly is that the experience in Israel is 2 weeks, really, really powerful. But then they come back to America. and some of them stay in Israel, actually, like my other daughter. But some of them come back, and how to keep that connection to Israel, that passion, that love, 365 days a year. And I think that's where how the organization starts to complement each other. And when we're talking about the unity and working together, that's where we see that in action. So I'd like to ask all of you, because I've learned yesterday from my colleague Lital Carmel, and don't even know if she's here. She's our VP of New Leadership, working with volunteers and a lot of amazing things. And she said that the way we look at the community and Chosen Chassinut is you need the quality and the quantity. You need volunteers, but they need to be with quality, that they need to know what to do. And to get there, so there are 3 steps. One is the active listening. They have to really listen to the community or the issues. What are the problems? What am I trying to solve? Then they have to regain control in chaotic reality. I think that must be the volunteers of Hatzala in Hashomer Hachadash. They are in many chaotic situations. They have to learn how to take over control. And then the other piece is creating traditions, things that happen again and again, and that's a very important part in community. So I'm going to go back to you, Yoel. October 7th was a wake-up call to so many of us. What did you do in your organization that helped people gain control in time of chaos?
Chazak. So I'll give 2 examples, because I live in the Golan Heights, in Moshav Natur. In 2006, people called it Moshav Natush, because there was only 6 families left and 40 empty houses. And before the war, there was more than 800 families in a standby list to the Moshav. And we took a decision as a community that we are going to plant our vineyard, Kerem, 200 meters away from the border with Syria. And people said that we are crazy. And my body was pain like I was in the Navy SEAL course the week after. But I can tell that soldiers came down to help us and volunteer to work. They said it's the most important thing that they saw since the 7th of October. And they saw, you see people plant looking 25 years forward, it means everything. So this is about community. Second, I will say that we need to understand that the farmers, it's a very small community in Israel. It's only 10,000 farmers left. We had 20,000 farmers 20 years ago, and we lost 10,000 in the last 20 years. So this small community, different from the United States. You remember how the borders in the States look, right? Most of the people live in the East Coast, West Coast, but the farmers live in the Midwest. In Israel, the farmers are the borders. They are the borders, actually. So we understood that if you also want to, like the panel before, they spoke about the North and the South, you understand that if you want to bring people back, and the farmers will live, and we know that 30% of the farmers speaking about living, so nobody will live there, because people will, will be what people are going to do when they come back to the Western Negev. So for example, Moshav Sde Nitzan, it's 5 minutes away from Rafah. And it's a Moshav that most of the people work in agriculture, of course, and 70% of the food in Israel coming from the Western Negev. So actually almost everybody left the Moshav, beside to few families. One of them is the Farhi family, a father and 3 sons that stayed in the Moshav. And we start to negotiate how we are going to bring people back. Until now, like people still didn't come back to the Moshav, many of them. So in April, when bombs was all around, we took a decision that we are going to open one of our schools in Sde Nitzan. We said, what are we going to do with permissions from the Ministry of Education? So we said they will have to find, the reason, or they ask the permission from us. Why not to do that? Like to go against the wave, or neged hazerem, against the stream, whatever. So we brought a few partners from Bank Hapoalim, JNF US, Mandel Foundation, and Doron Almog from the Jewish Agency. And we decided, no, we are not going to establish one school, we are going to establish 2 schools. One will be right on the border with Rafah, and another one on the border with Egypt, because you know that the next war will be with Egypt, unfortunately. So we said we need to bring to strengthen the communities right now. And on the 25th of August, the first 30 students was in the Moshav. And we established a new school from 0 to 100. We just started to build the houses on the 5th of August. It was ready. Last week there was 10 in tents on the last months. Since we started, there was 10 in tents in Kibbutz Tze'elim. And for the families, because I was there just last week, for the families in Kibbutz, in Moshav Sde Nitzan, to see 30 kids, and you need to understand, the way we work is that our boarding school kids wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, they work until 11:30, 1, something like that. In 1 o'clock they start their studies for 3-4 hours. We just achieved a week ago the prize for the highest grades in Israel in 4 hours. You understand how much time our kids waste in the classroom. And establishing, greenhouses that are the most technological, high-tech greenhouses. And we see these kids, and we tell these kids, and we see this opportunity. You speak about what we can do for the communities. We need to look 3-5 years from now forward. We need to make Israel. We was a startup nation. I think now we need to change the face. We need to become the food security nation. I think the next accords that we're going to see is going to be the Yosef Accords, the Joseph Accords. Israel needs to be the one that's feeding the Middle East, and we need to make sure that a place like Egypt, okay, they will be dependent on food from Israel, supply from Israel, and water from Israel. And the young generation in Israel, okay, is the only one that's going to make it happen. And it's like any other thing that we are doing. And I think that also in IAC next time, the conference needs to be double big. It needs to be only with between 15 years old to 22 years old. It needs to be a conference at the same time that asking the question, how you are going to change the world and giving them the opportunities to change the world for war, during for the world. And in Israel right now, it's the state of opportunities. People look, sadly about what's going on and happening in Israel. We was very, very lucky. We was very, very lucky that it's ended just this way. And we saw all the opportunities, all the power, the strengths we have. And like you said, that you started by seeing, this kid, okay? That we missed the opportunity about him. I think that what we saw in all over the area of the kibbutzim, it's our time right now to bring the idea of Yigal Alon and to create the Israeli envelope with villages all around Israel and give the opportunities for us really to build Israel for 100 years forward.
Absolutely. Thank you. We have Herzl over there, right? And the concept of Zionism. And for many years, those who live in America, we've been asked, well, if you are such a Zionist, why don't you live in Israel, right? If you believe so much in, what are you doing here? And I think what I'm hearing from our community, because, there's nearly 1 million Israeli Americans right here in America. And they're very much Zionists. They believe in the ideal of Zionists. And I think what the IC, at least for me, did is that anyone can be Zionist, and you don't have to, you can live anywhere on the planet while you still believe that Israel is the home and the birthright of the Jewish people. And somebody said to me, yes, in the 70s there was the Yerida and Ayordim and Folet Nemushim, all those. And somebody said, if it didn't happen, then somebody should have invented that. And I'm glad Shom is in the room because he talked a few years ago about Noah's Ark, and that we need this Noah's Ark. We build it, even when people didn't even know why. Why do you need that organization? You have a place to go. You don't have to be here. And I think of October 7th sort of made us realize, thank God we have that boat or that ark. It's not perfect. There's still some leaks here and there. We are working on it. But we're all in it, and we are... when I saw the thousands and thousands of people on the streets and the volunteers here and the demonstrations on campuses and helping doing that bridge, connecting the community from coast to coast. To me, that's the idea of Zionism also.
I can say that for me, you know, the way you educate your daughter, that she's right now in Kiryat Shmona or Metula, that right now her daughter in the Aram is serving in Kiryat Shmona, I think this is, if 1 million people will do a 1 month or 2 months reserve in Israel in any way they want, we all will be in a great place.
Yes, it's true. I'm sorry, I'm going to go back to Eli. I have a very important question to him, but I will say, I've raised my daughters here in America. My husband is American. And one decided to do Aliyah, and she was in Tzofim, and she was very active in Eitanim, and did all the IC programs. And now, but when she wanted to do Aliyah, it was pretty much to do IDF. It looks good on Instagram with the gun and everything. And little did she know that she's not just doing IDF, she's going to a war, and she's going to be fighting a war, in a war. And I asked her to come here for the conference, and she said, "Mom, don't you know, we are busy here." But the other daughter, I wanted her to do IDF as well, and I said, look at your older sister, and look what she's doing. I had a great IDF experience myself. And she said, "No, I want the American college experience. I want the football, the games, the sport, the sororities, and all of that." And little did she know that she's also going to be a soldier, sort of without uniform, without helmets. She will have to fight her way from cafeteria to the classroom with all the pro-Palestinians demonstrations. So I think no matter where our kids go, anywhere, what they decide to do, they are soldiers for Israel and the Jewish people. So thank you for mentioning that. Eli Bir. October 7th, chaotic times. How did you and your team gain control in chaotic time, in that day?
So for 35 years, I'm doing this. I'm a medic. I responded to thousands and thousands of emergencies in my lifetime. I've been to most of the terrorist attacks in hotels, in restaurants, in buses. If I count all of these 35 years into one day, it's not even close to what I saw on October 7th. I could say for the last few years, many of you heard me, many of our events, I always said that one day, United Hatzala has to be ready for a big war coming from north and south. And I spoke as a volunteer who's seen the situations of bus blowing up and different things. I said, we have enemies from all around us. One day they're going to unite. It's going to happen. They hate each other, but they're going to unite because they hate us even more. And unfortunately, at 6:45 in the morning, I was woken up telling me that one of our volunteers was shot in Sderot. The first terrorist who came in Sderot shot one of our volunteers who was on the way to save people in the police station. I was in the headquarters of Hatzala at 7:15. By 7:15, we already had one volunteer murdered in the Nova Festival, who was an Arab volunteer, Awad Darawshe, who came to save people's lives in the Nova party, and he didn't run away. He saw people getting murdered by the terrorists and shot, and he decided to stay and fight for them. He was an Arab, Muslim, religious volunteer. He prayed 5 times a day, but when he saw the terrorists, he started talking Arabic to them, and they shot him 25 times. Wow. That's how I found myself in the Hatzala headquarters. My wife, Gitti, who you know very well, my wife, Gitti, is a real hero, a volunteer of Hatzala. She's a paramedic. She graduated 4 years of paramedics October 1st. She was an EMT before. She upgraded. And she told me at 7:30, she said, "I'm on the way down south." I said, "Gitti, are you crazy? Do you know we had a volunteer killed already?" She says, "Eli, my mother's a Holocaust survivor. The only survivor from her entire family. She was found in Poland when she was 3 years old. And they took her to America. She never met her family because every one of them was murdered by the Nazis. She said no one was for my mother. No one came to save my mother's family, my grandparents or my uncle, aunts. She says, I am doing what no one did for my mother. She called me at 11:30 crying on the phone. She couldn't talk. I couldn't understand. She said, I'm treating a soldier by the name of Mir. He was the head of the brigade who was fighting in Kfar Aza. She said to me, I'm treating him. I see his brain. He still has vital signs. He still is alive, but I see his brain. The chances of survival by him is very, very low. We need to get him out of here. We don't have enough ambulances. Ambulances were hardly available in the whole south of Israel, in the whole region. Our volunteers were transporting seriously patients in the cars, and some of them were getting shot. She says, Eli, could you fly the helicopters? Hatzala, we started with 15 volunteers. 1989, now we have, Baruch Hashem, almost 8,000 volunteers. We have motorcycles and ambulances and helicopters. But I said to her, the air control of Israel doesn't allow us to fly the planes. That was one of the hardest moments of my life, and I think one of the bravest moments of my life. I was sitting in the command center with my deputy, Dovi Mezel. We were trying to, what do we do? The air control, the air traffic control said no one's flying. We have thousands of missiles flying both directions. Helicopters, they're not going to be in the air. But my wife says, Gitti says, we need to get them out of here, not to the Soroka hospital because it was packed, overwhelmed. Barzilai was overwhelmed. These patients have to go to Tel Aviv and Jerusalem hospitals. Hadassah and Tel Hashomer and Ichilov, these hospitals have room. So I said to my guy, I said, let's fly the helicopters anyways, because I said, I remembered when we started Hatzala, we never asked for permission. I always believed that in Israel, if you want to start something, I think we do. I think we have heroes here like Miriam Peretz and others who believe you never start anything in Israel with asking for permission. You always ask for forgiveness. And that day, I just want to finish this. That day, that moment, 11:30 in the morning, we flew our helicopters, 3 helicopters down south to take patients. One of them was near. And just a week ago, I got a beautiful message with a beautiful video of him. He just ran a few kilometers in Chicago. He was alive. And that day, we treated 12,500 people all around Israel. All around Israel.
Wonderful. Amazing, amazing. I have to say, my mom always says, look at the Jewish people. Way before we had the permission in 48 to have a land or a country, we started to build it in the early century. We believed in that way before we were told we can have it or not. I want my last question to go to Dr. Adelson, because we talked about how organizations build resiliency, how we build communities. And I want to ask also on a personal level, because there's a certain drive. How do you overcome the difficulties or difficult times? What's the internal chosen? What's the everyday keeps you going, even when the future is not always so clear, especially when it comes to the Jewish people and the state of Israel?
So just a moment before it, I want to tell you, to the audience, that these two organizations are my favorite.
3
in donations, and
3 organizations.
Not just in donations, but following up, getting reports. I'm all the time interested in them. And I tell you why. Why? Because the people there are volunteering. I mean, of course, the top people need a job, but those who are going with beepers, and those kids and grown-up who are going to settle next to the border in very dangerous area. Nobody is paying them for this, and nobody is paying for his paramedic. And the paramedic is not working full job, but sometimes they are called a few times a day. They have the Israeli beeper and a boy and they have their location, and wherever let's assume there are one house next to a boy that was choking, and they identify who is the closest and say, go immediately to this house and save a child. And they are within very short time there. As you know, I'm a physician. I worked 5 years in emergency room. So I did a lot of emergency, a lot of resuscitation. One day I resuscitated my next door neighbor, one floor above me, Mr. Rubin Yasmin. And this is my daughter with the red. My oldest, my pearl. Anyhow, his wife called me. I went immediately upstairs and I put him on the floor and I started CPR. And of course, I told her, call the ambulance. The ambulance took, though we are very close to Ichilov, took like 17 minutes till the ambulance. And I'm working and puffing and the pulse came back. The ambulance took it. Also in the car, he had cardiac arrest. They defibrillated him. He came to Ichilov again, defibrillated. And he survived another, I think, between 7 and 9 years, had few grandchildren. But I, as a physician, was so upset that it takes such a time to do it. And here, this guy is arranging volunteers all over Israel to save life. I like the fact that people are volunteering, because if you know what happened in October 7, there were ambulances of Magen David Adom and ambulance of Hachadash. The ambulances that entered Gaza and saved life were the Hachadash. Those ambulances of Magen David Adom, I'm sorry, they stayed outside. These are the driver and the paramedic that are getting salaries to work. And these volunteers, I know that one of the volunteers who was religious and broke the Shabbat. And when they told him, you cannot enter, he said, I broke the Shabbat in order to stay and wait, and he entered. So this is when somebody is volunteering, he has to be somebody special, not to ask for salary, and to do it and to feel. I'm telling you, those people are the happiest people, because the feeling of saving life, and I know it because I saved so many lives, and I'm high each time that I'm saving life. I feel great, and those are the happiest people that I'm sure. They are delivering babies, they are doing amazing things. So because of this, person that is volunteering, a priority has a good soul, I want to tell you. The same thing here. This is my first priorities, but their organization, Birthright, and this that I give more money, but but they are my love. And this guy, his salary is so low, I don't want to say, he doesn't take anything for himself. He's living in Golan Heights. He was in very important unit in the army. And he is collecting people around him like him that have the whole soul to help and volunteer. These are the best of Israel. Those are the people that when we call the reserve, the extra 30%, we call 100% reserve, 130% came to fight. So those are the people, the extra people, that are the creme de la creme of the Israelis. Those are our future. Those are future government. Those are future leaders. That's my feeling. But I don't let him go for 10 years to politics. I made a contract, I give you so much money, you cannot go to politics yet. So in 10 years, we will see where we are. But he has a job to develop something so important. I don't want him to be with all these jokers there in politics. Now, that's I told you my secret. And another remark that I want to tell you about the Jews in the diaspora. Sheldon, the love of my life, always said that if there wouldn't be Jews in America or in the diaspora, we will have to export them. Yes. So he believes that you are so important. And that's what I tell to Taglit kids when they always ask me, why do you give us free trip? I tell to them, you have already paid me, you are already connected with Israel, and in the future you will be my soldiers in the diaspora. I need you, I will need you. You will protect Israel from the outside. The Jews in the diaspora are so important, and go and walk proud. I want you, this room, I want you to promise me that from tomorrow, the women are wearing Magen David, and don't take it out, don't be afraid, and the men with kippah. And you can ask also your Gentile friends, give them kippah to wear. Just stand up. Be proud Jews. Now, what did you ask me?
Well, I'm going to try not to feel, as a representative of the IAC, I feel a little left out with your favorite child, but no, I'm kidding.
No. I mean, this is, IAC is much more than I expected, I want to tell you. Much more. Every year I see that it developed much more, and you are our army here. You know it. And I see your reaction. I see how much the ISC is fighting the anti-Semitism. All the organization, all the Jews all over the world, mainly in America, are doing God's job. And my son, Adam, was right when he said that this guy was not just protecting me and my family in Israel, he was protecting all the Jewry all over the world. And you, the American Jewry, are protecting the Jews in Israel and all over the world. So what did you want to ask me? I will answer in one sentence.
Okay, all good. I feel much better.
Yeah. I think
our time. Yeah, and I do have to say our time is up, and I do have a question. I just don't know if I can ask it now, because Dr. Adelson is about to meet. We have a reception with the Crown Prince, so we have to walk there. Do you want me to ask that last question? Yes? Okay, I will.
If we have time.
Yes, the answer is very short. Okay, so we've heard in the plenary something that was said by President Trump, and that sort of, some people felt a little unease about what in 2 years, if he may not get elected, would that be the end of Israel? And so some people came, and there was a conversation about that, because some of us think he didn't quite mean that. And I said, should we ask you, what did you think he really mean when he said that?
I bet he meant it. And listen, Kamala just said that she would not send any ammunition to Israel. So let's assume that they win. God forbid, no. But if they win, no arms to Israel. Israel is not yet arms independent, though we developed many systems, but with the American. So imagine that we don't have enough arms, and Hezbollah from Jordan, they're coming all around. So what do you think? I think the next thing would be that I will pay taxes to the Arabs that are controlling me in Israel, because Jews, in order to live, have to pay taxes wherever they used to live in Arab countries. I think he meant this. I do think that if they would be elected and Israel wouldn't be able to get arms, I think Israel would be in a disaster situation. Maybe we get some aunt from Czechoslovakia, maybe something, but many of us would be killed, would be slaughtered, and God forbid. So I do think he meant it, and I told him this. I told him, well, that's what you say, but you don't know the secret of the Jews. And then I told him, והיא שעמדה, started to sing to him, לאבותינו ולנו, כי בכל דורות בדור עומדים עלינו להשמידנו, להכחידנו, והקדוש ברוך הוא מצילנו מידם. So you are right. I told him, yes, you are right, we will be in terrible situation. And it's good to scare the Jews that are going to vote for this woman that wouldn't give us arms. Scare them, but you don't know that, yes, we will be in very dangerous situation like God told us we will be. Every generation in difficult situation. But you don't know our secret. Ask your daughter, and God would save us. So it's not so bad.
תודה. I feel like singing והיא שעמדה עכשיו. But והיא שעמדה והיא שעמדה לאבותינו ולנו. והיא שעמדה והיא שעמדה לאבותינו ולנו. שרוב אחד בלבד עמד עלינו לכלותנו, אלא שבכל דור ודור עומדים עלינו לכלותנו, הקדוש ברוך הוא יצילנו מידם. תודה לכולם, הקדוש ברוך הוא ואתם, וביחד ננצח. תודה.